This is the Alfie Brown Show, and this week it is again, for the second week in a row, quite a heavily focused Russian-Ukrainian disaster war, evil bastard type podcast. Everything else just sort of pales in significance, and whilst I do touch at the end on Brighton and the Beatles Documentary and Tyson Fury and hating Lent, the meat of the episode really is focused around the Russia-Ukrainian crisis, war, evil bastard problem that we're that's going on at the moment. I'm on tour at the moment. Please come to see me. Brighton tonight. You'll probably have missed this by the time you listen to it. But then on Sunday, I am in Leeds. On Monday, I am in Hull. On Tuesday, I am in Dublin. On Wednesday, I am in Belfast. And that is the way that it all works. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, please will you subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you haven't left a comment on iTunes or whatever place you listen to the podcast on, please will you rate and leave a nice comment. Leave a nice comment, share the podcast. Please will you share this podcast? Please. That's all I ask from you. Okay? If you like it, share it. Disseminate the information. This is the Alfie Brown Show. Enjoy. So who would have thought that only the day after, I think, that I recorded the last podcast about, mainly in part about Putin surrounding Ukraine with all of his tanks and army, that he would have invaded. I think the day after the last podcast, which is, personally a bit of a shame for me. I think he could have held off for a couple of days just to keep the tenses in my podcast relevant. That would have been convenient for me. It possibly would have been more convenient for the people of Ukraine, and more convenient for, I think, a lot of the Russian soldiers who, from a lot of the footage I've seen, seem not totally sold on the idea of going to war. And I think if I was going to send troops to go and fight a war on my behalf, me being the leader of a nation or country, I think I'd want my soldiers to at least be up for it. I think that's one thing that I'd have taken great pains to try and establish in them, is some enthusiasm for not the idea of going to war, but the idea of, something valid to achieve. Give them something to believe in. I think if you don't have anything to believe in, then war feels like, must feel like quite a bad job. I mean, of course you want motivation in your work. Of course you do. When we all in our jobs, in our day-to-day lives, need to access some sort of, we enjoy our work more if we are invested in it. And I think probably a lot of the Russian soldiers Russian, nationals who famously, and the whole kind of point is that they feel very close to the Ukrainian people, aren't overly keen on the idea of, displacing and killing. It's desperately sad. It really, it's so desperately sad, and and makes me, and I suppose everybody else who's listening, feel powerless and angry and scared. I think scared is another really big and good one. If you're mentioning trying to get a list together of how everything's making you feel, I suppose scared is a pretty big one. I oscillate between feelings of sort of placid optimism and pangs of like deep and gripping fear about nuclear war, obviously. Uh, and I remember I was very, very afraid of the idea of war as a child and would be panicked about it. I have a few vivid memories from that time about being scared and listening to the radio as like a 5-year-old. And I remember asking my parents, "Are we still at war?" That was the first Gulf War. "Are we still at war?" And they went, "Yeah, we are." And I went, "Wow, what?" I it's very hard when you have these memories from being a child and you try to unpick uh, what it was you were thinking. And of course, when you remember how you felt when you received some information as a child, you remember it as the adult you are now. So I'm keen not to remember it like m- with much more emotional eloquence and a keener understanding of the world and global events than I obviously had when I was 5 years old. But the way in which I do remember it, obviously, I don't know how reliable this memory is, was that just the feeling of living through something, or the feeling of a fear on behalf of people, or the feeling of maybe some sort of intangible feeling of history, without really the language to describe it at that time. I did maybe feel a kind of a sad and wanting this particular moment in the writing of history to end because I knew that it meant death. And as a, always been very aware of death. Just, I don't know. Yeah, that's my brain. Got a deathy brain. And I- and then around that time, I remember asking my dad said to me, "There's only one person who I would kill. I would never ever kill anyone or anything." Grew up vegetarian in my house, which back in 1990, 3 was very cool. And he said, "I'd only kill one person. If I had a gun, I'd shoot Saddam Hussein." Which I know that the Iraq War has uh, slightly shifted the what that means to people upon hearing it. Like, because the United States and the United Kingdom and the Allies fucked up the Iraq War so badly, there's this reprinting of history, whereas like we were the Iraq were the good guys, whereas actually, or the Iraqi regime were the good guys, or I think that would be I'm not. I'm sure not everybody remembers it that way. Some people remember it the way it was, in that they were a bunch of bad dickheads. Maybe that's putting it too lightly. But there was certainly the murder and ethnic cleansing of Saddam Hussein's own people, and the using of chemical weapons to do such, in the committing of atrocities, war crimes. Again, like he said, he was the one who said, "I've got weapons of mass destruction." And then we went, "Well, we'll come and look for them then." And then lots of people kind of probably correctly went, "They don't actually have weapons of mass destruction. I think they were just saying that so they could play the big un." And then we went, "Well, we'll see about that." And went to look for them, and then they weren't there. And anyway, the programs and documentaries on the Iraq War are, I think they're probably still up on the iPlayer. But what's striking is that uh, we went into Iraq, toppled Saddam, or the United Kingdom. We, in that sort of context, sounds kind of completely grotesque, doesn't it? The Allies again went into Iraq, toppled Saddam, and then everybody was cheering and celebrating. Like the Iraqi people were celebrating having been freed, and from an autocrat, from a fascist. And then everybody went, "Right, so there you go. You thank you for getting rid of that bad dickhead. Now what?" And then we went, "Leave you to it. Oh, good luck. Um, not going to put too much money or time or effort into the rebuilding of anything." Like the tragedy of Iraq was what happened after the war was won, not the winning of the war itself, if that makes any sense. And had there been a proper succession plan or planning for what happened after the war, then people wouldn't remember the war in quite the way that it was. And also because you were going in there to remove a man who had committed crimes, war crimes, ethnic cleansing, killed his own people. This is not the same, which I've seen, you know, in the great festival of whataboutism that we're currently enduring at the moment. Like with people going, oh, we care so much more about this than we do about things in other places. Yes. Why is that strange? Like, what's bizarre about that to you? Anyway, this is not the same as Putin going into Ukraine is not the same as the Allied forces going into Iraq. It's not the same thing at all. Okay. The other thing that I've seen is people going, well, this is about NATO expansionism. NATO, so the North Atlantic Treaty of Ostriches, is signed wherever it was signed after World War II, basically as a way to safeguard smaller nations who couldn't afford, you know, huge armies. So you check Slovakia's or Czech Republic as it would be now with the Sudetenland and the annexation of the Sudetenland, and Hitler going, loads of German people lived there. It's mine. Come on. What are you going to do, huh? And then everybody went, okay, they are German speakers, so you can have it. And then he went, and the rest of it, and Europe, and the world. And we went, oh, no. It wasn't about them being German speakers at all, was it? And that's fast forward 2014, Putin, Crimea. They're all Russian speakers. All right, you can have it. And the rest of it, and the world. Oh, no, we fell for it again. Boo! Boo our perception. And us, like, what are we supposed to do? Like, people saying we shouldn't have expanded NATO. So lots of small countries, NATO being a military alliance. So if you are in a smaller country, if you're in Liechtenstein and you want safeguarding the security of having a big army, so that people can't just bully you, essentially. And what are we supposed to say? In 1998, go, no, we're not going to allow Moldova to join NATO because the Russians might not like it. And we're not going to allow you that sense of safety and like being sure in yourself as a civic state that can't be rolled over Moldova by a big fuck off nation. We're going to just let you just stay there and fester in your nervous vulnerability because we don't want to poke the Russian bear. Well, fuck that. Like, also, like, these foreign policy experts that you hear about having said in 1998 about the particular NATO expansion at that point, oh, well, we shouldn't allow NATO expansion now because Russia was an ally at that point. Russia was old matey mine, wasn't it? Because Yeltsin was just there happy kind of creating a more liberal capitalist Russia and getting pissed the whole time. And then how were we to know that the KGB, as it had become by then the FSB, the Federal Secret Bureau of Police, had got one of their own? He's one of our own. He's one of our own. Vladimir Putin. He's one of our own. They would sing to themselves with vodka. Vodka. Come on. And that was in 1999 that they sort of succession planned him as their way to president. He is, as I spoke about on the last podcast, a Christian fascist. I'm sorry to talk about the war in Russia so much, but it is preoccupying a lot of my brain. I hope it's not. Well, I mean, it's whether it's boring or not. It's not boring, is it? I'm sorry if it's too harrowing. But there we are. It's at the forefront of everybody's mind, as well. It probably should be, because it's a huge point in human history. Let's hope it's not as big as it could be, eh? I don't. And I think there's a lot now, when everybody was going before the invasion. Oh, why? Logically, why is this happening? I'll tell you why. Because he's mental. And then the thing is that now everybody's, I think, like, a lot of people are saying, oh, we didn't realize, a lot of speculation about his mental health. Not his mental health, like, oh, does he have depression? But his mental health as in, has he, like, gone loopy? Because of all these decisions he's making. Maybe he has COVID or long COVID, and has he ever been the same since? And is all of his decision-making faculties fried and fucked? This is a bloke who, in 1999, after his ascension to the role of president, after the resignation of Boris Yeltsin, is thought to have created a national crisis by bombing apartment buildings throughout Russia and blaming it on Chechen terrorists. And then him being able to be a strong man and say, we are going to get them folk what done this, to paraphrase George Bush via Stuart Lee. Then everybody in Russia could be kind of galvanized and made to feel safe by this unknown, this tiny unknown dweeb suddenly became this strong savior of Russia in a moment of frailty and vulnerability in the face of what they thought were Russian terrorists. Chechen terrorists. And then Alexander Litvinenko says, actually, that was the Federal Secret Bureau of Police, or whatever that FSB stands for, the secret police, the KGB, essentially. They did that to create a crisis to boost Putin's ratings so that he would more easily win the forthcoming presidential election, and it wouldn't be handed back to the communists as it could have been, as it could have done, I think. And Litvinenko said that, and then he was happy at home, and he went for some sushi, didn't he? He went for some sushi, and then they went, there you go. What's this? It's a polonium-10 roll. And then he went, ugh, that's horrible. I'm dead now. I mean, it's not the best history lesson in the world, is it? What that I'm giving right now, but fucking hell, it's absolutely terrible. So, I mean, that's my point: is that the fact that he did that, murdered somebody, and attempted to murder others. It wasn't the only time on British soil. The fact that he bombed his own people's apartment buildings so that they'd vote for him, and then lied about what that was or what was going on there. And then we go, oh, maybe he's gone mad because he's invaded Ukraine. Maybe he's always been like a really, really bad and damaged mad bloke, and everybody was just ignoring it. Everybody who shouldn't have been ignoring it. I was ignoring it, but I'm allowed to ignore it because I'm just like a bloke from London. Maybe the people who shouldn't have been ignoring it were ignoring it. Now we are fucked. For now, Ukraine is fucked. We're not fucked yet, but I mean, there is a human crisis and people will suffer and die because people weren't going, this mad bloke, is he? I mean, I'm not sure what we could have done. I'm not sure what we can do now. Jesse said to me the other day, couldn't you just kill him? Isn't there somebody that can just kill him? And it is, tempting to fantasize about that and who would be good to kill him. I'd quite like to see him humiliated first, but I'd take his death, just, purely to stop this. And then, I don't know what makes people, I think the scariest thing about him is the psychotic lack of empathy in him. The fact that there is no window to the soul. I get the impression like there's just an instinct that you have about when you see a human that they could feel something. Like I completely understand that we have politicians in this country who are, in some circumstances, cold and uncaring, that obfuscate the truth, that can be offensive and not think clearly and thoroughly enough about the people that their policies affect. They can lack empathy. But there's a difference between just lacking empathy about things about the side effects of of policies that don't care properly, and like a calculated will to destroy on ideological grounds another nation that you don't recognize to exist. You're willing to see people die. You're willing to threaten oblivion. And I don't think, even though the Tories are bad, I don't think that exists within the Tory party. That like cold, snake-like, uncaring, uncaring in the face of ultimate oblivion. I don't think that there's anybody like that, even though we think like Theresa May, excuse me, Theresa May. I can't imagine Vladimir Putin when we finally jib him off and he's out on his arse and he's there going, I just want to say thank you to everybody about the chance to serve this nation and to try and invade Ukraine and take it back, because I don't really think it exists. I think that Ukraine is and always was Russian, and I just wanted to take it back so that I might unite a kind of medieval notion of what Russia was. That's all I wanted, and to serve this great nation and imbue it with the feelings of the ideology of Christian fascism that I hold so dear to my heart. I don't think he's doing that. Is he? Our Vladimir? I want to see his humanity. I want to draw it out of him. I want to see him either doing a shit or a fuck. That's what I'd like. I'd like to see him fuck. I had an ex-girlfriend who used to say to me that she loved to watch me orgasm because it was the moment of orgasm at which I would surrender any ability to be in control of my expressions. She said it was like a window on my soul, and that when I ejaculated, I could no longer summon the wherewithal to contort my face as I would like. I could no longer be seen as I wanted to be seen. I could only be seen as I was. And she loved that. And that's why I want to make Vladimir Putin come. Just to go, what do you look like when you're being a human? You utter fucking runt. You little man. Or shit. I really imagine that he resents doing a shit. That he hates the idea of it. And every time he wipes his ass and looks to see if the cloth is clean, ugh, there's more shit on my bum. Ugh, surely I'm better than this. Surely I'm somebody that doesn't need to shit. Anyway, I think I'm done with talking about it now. It just a lot to get off one's chest, and I do appreciate that that's, you know, a good 25 minutes of talking about Russia, but I care about it. And sorry if I'm like, why do we care so much more about this than we care about anything else, like conflicts elsewhere? Because it's closer, because it's more similar, because there is sort of developed Western democracy that's just been invaded by a nuclear power. It's nuclear, and it has ramifications for all of us throughout Europe, and the kind of the very most kind of it's human democracy, or like, sorry, democracy and human progress is like desired, or what we thought was human progress is end point, like really the end of history, capitalism, democracy, liberal values. This is now rewriting, you know, what we thought was the end now has a rather large and horrifying sequel. The ramifications of this, like it or not, it's not about race or, I mean, people are programmed to care more about things that they recognize and identify with, and you just do culturally recognize in our own society Ukraine more than you do Yemen. The excellent journalist Marie Laconte said, when the Arab Spring happened, she remembers, she's from Tunisia. Morocco, the Arab Spring happened in Tunisia. She said that she cared a lot more about it because it felt like a lot more close to home, but she totally understood that she cared more than other people because it was closer to what she recognizes as her life. I mean, I'm paraphrasing this because it was a tweet that I read, but Yanal. Anyway, I don't know where else to go now, or what else I've been doing. What have I been doing? A little change of gear. See, this is the thing, is if I had like, if anybody wanted to sponsor the podcast, now would be a great time to do it, because then I could just go, anyway, that's enough about Russia. Why not build a website with insert website builder? Why not use Coin Wallet to do all your crypto? Why not, use Coin Wallet now to try and get some sort of mad, intangible thing that you can pay for if you want a gun or some child porn. Use Coin Wallet now to get your guns and child porn, or whatever people use crypto for. But, I don't have any sponsorship, possibly because I say things like buy your guns and child porn. Maybe I'm a fool unto myself, Brighton tonight on tour. I'm going to Brighton, the Comedia, one of my favourite places to tour. So I doubt, but yeah, this will probably be up before the tour date. But if you listen to this the moment it comes out, it'll only been up for an hour, so you probably won't make it. I'm not sure how big I am in Brighton. Ticket sales are all right, so could be a good one. Could be a good one. Brighton is a bizarre city, the city of Brighton and Hove. So they got together and went, shall we be a city rather than just be a town? I don't know when they did that. The expansion of Brighton and Hove is poking the Russian bear. It's a bizarre city because usually I was on the radio this morning trying to plug my Belfast tour dates, Belfast, and when I was doing that, I was saying that I loved Belfast, the city, and I thought it sort of shared a similar civic identity to that of uh, 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 Glasgow and Newcastle and Liverpool, and I think that's true. I don't know. I don't know what it is about them. I mean, I can think of a few things, but none of them particularly entertaining to go into. And Brighton seems to be like completely, sort of almost madly unique. I mean, going around all these different places and learning about the different towns and cities in the UK is a treat. Shrewsbury, interesting place, completely beautiful, and posh. And it straddles the two different ends of posh. On the posh continuum, you've got new posh and old posh, and it's both. By which I mean, when you're walking through Shrewsbury, you can't move but for vegan cafes, and next to each vegan cafe is a shop where you can buy a barber jacket and a gun. That's the kind of posh it is. Whereas Brighton is kind of bohemian in a way that I've not really seen, or like not many other cities are kind of held by this sense of seaside bohemia in the same way that Brighton is, which makes it a really interesting place to go, a really interesting place to gig, a place that I wouldn't mind living if it wasn't millions of miles away from literally everywhere else in the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. So, you know, I look forward to going there and getting some sort of Indian street food, and with crispy onions on it, and a spicy chickpea and rice thingamajig with, chol puri things and chapati puff thing, whatnots, from an eccentric old white man. And then get some vegan shoes, and then get a horrible shirt with a huge collar like a mod would wear. And then who knows? And then who knows? Just do a show with some, after too much, I'll do a sleepy show tonight after a big portion of fish and chips. I've been watching the Beatles documentary. Documentary is a bit of a maybe a bit of a word, a bit of a big word for what it is. It's more just a collection of footage. It's just loads of footage. It's just hours and hours and hours. As the hours sort of move on, it actually starts to evolve that something has happened, or that there is some sort of semblance of narrative arc or journey that befalls the Beatles in this particular time period. But they're good 2.5 hour episodes, these documentary things. And I mean, we really should have expected that from the director of Lord of the Rings, I suppose. Not one who really enjoys the edit button as much as you might hope when you're watching that. But actually, I didn't. I mean, I could watch the Beatles talk to each other for God knows how long. It's sort of become unfashionable, really, to say that they're the greatest band of all time. But when you're watching them work, and when you listen to, I mean, I think George Martin does a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of making them quite as remarkably inventive. But also what comes across in the documentary is how brilliant Paul McCartney is. And Paul McCartney, because he's lived, made the mistake of staying alive, comes across like the kind of the genius behind the whole thing. And he's the one who's the genius, and everybody else is John seems to have given up by this point. George seems bafflingly insecure. Ringo's just happy to be there. Ringo seems like the best pint, like a really kind and gentle and good soul. Which is weird because he's a big Brexit supporter now. Get out of our country, says Thomas. So I've been watching that. That's been my nighttime, and then Peaky Blinders as well, which I think programs that stylized, they just need to stop before that, because you can see a montage now, Paul. Well, not Paul. Sorry, she's dead. There's everything just feels slightly inconsequential in the context of global events. Everything just, there's a fucking Beatles documentary on, isn't there? Or you go and watch that on Disney Plus before the nuclear winter comes. Oh, look, Tyson Fury's in the news because he's been wanking again. Tyson Fury's going to retire, and Tyson Fury's wanking, and Tyson Fury's wanked himself to an early retirement. Is he a hero? Is he a villain? Does he hate gay people? Is any boxer, like, if you investigate them to the core of their moral soul, are they really the leaders that we want to teach us about ethics and core liberal values? Or are boxers more important as just representations of a particular thing? Like Muhammad Ali, soz about this, but strikes me a bit of a dickhead. Like, all of this kind of mistreatment of women, and also the awful way in which he sort of spoke to George Foreman in the build up to their fight. It was sort of really kind of racially nasty. Or was that Joe Frazier? Either way, I think it might have been both. Not cool, but it didn't matter, because what he represented and what he meant to people was worth more than what he was in actuality. Same, I think, is probably true of Tyson Fury, in that what he means, and like his shitty views, his shitty inherited beliefs that he's gotten from being a mad Christian or whatever, awful. But more important than that is what he represents as a hero having overcome a mental health problem. Easy for me to say because I'm not one of the victims of one of his shitty inherited beliefs, but that doesn't mean I'm wrong. I might have said this before on the podcast, but the point worth making again. Happy Lent, everybody. Happy Ash Wednesday. It's Ash Wednesday. Happy Ash Wednesday. I should have led with that. I should have led with Happy Ash Wednesday. I hope I hate Ash Wednesday. I'm not giving something up. You give something up. I think Lent should be a time where you take something on. The thing is, it's so negative to think about things in terms of what you should give up. Like, I'm going to give up, something I enjoy. Just don't give it up. Like, obviously, if it's a problem, give it up. Like, go and see somebody about it. But that's not like, alcoholics aren't giving up booze for Lent, are they? They're giving up smoking. Alcoholics are giving up smoking for Lent. And if you like, the greatest kind of most positive improvement you could make that will be better for your for everything there is about you will be taking something on. This Lent I'm going to read 3 books. This Lent I'm going to go to the gym every day. This Lent I'm going to eat good food for breakfast. This Lent I'm going to put on a charity event. This Lent I'm going to get my recycling habit down. This Lent, I'm going to masturbate 7 times a day and become heavyweight champion of the world. This seems like a better thing to do, because that way you're doing something. And if you, or if you're like, if you just do the fucking stupid Jordan Peterson thing of thinking, oh, I'm going to make my bed every day, then you just do it. And then other stuff anything that you want to give up, you'll do less of if you're doing more of the things that are good for you. Like I'm going to give up my smartphone. Don't, just read more and you'll look at your smartphone less. I'm going to give up this bad food. Don't, go to the gym more and you'll feel like eating better. Like, just do the positive thing rather than take away the good thing. And that way, just, if you've been to the gym 7 times that week and eaten a bunch of broccoli, you have a bun. Like, have a bun or a beer. Don't have a million billion beers, otherwise you won't feel like going to the gym the next day, and then you've broken your Lent thing, and then you've got to crucify yourself. Is that the rule? You put yourself on a cross, string yourself up. If you break your Lent rule, chop your hands off or something, and go and fight in Ukraine. I don't think I'd be very good at that. I don't think I'd be very good at these men, the bravery of them. Sorry to talk about it again, but the bravery of these incredible people, and absolutely in awe, and constantly thinking, would I do it? Could I do it? Would I do it? Would I? I don't know. I don't know. I just don't think I'd have the bravery. I think when it comes to, bravery is not a word with one meaning or representation in human behavior. The bravery to perform stand-up comedy, yes, of course. The bravery to fight an oncoming Russian army. Oh, no. That's some bravery you can keep, actually, there. Thank you very much indeed, though. I think I'd break my own legs. Well, maybe I'm just sort of overestimating what a coward I'd be. I was speaking to my friend about that the other day, and I went, I wouldn't be protesting if I was in Russia. I wouldn't want to get arrested and then just disappear. And he said, I think you would. And it's not really like machismo and what you're led to believe that you would do always or usually works in the other way. You've got the bravado to go, you lucky that didn't happen to me, otherwise I'd beat them up. It's very rare. I wonder if there is the phenomenon that I think to myself, now I couldn't fight. Actually, though, I would. And I would reconcile myself to the idea that actually the equilibrium of the planet and a good winning over evil is more important than my life, even if that means I don't get to see my children again. Fuck. Harrowing. So I really, 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 I'm in awe of the bravery of the people fighting in Ukraine, and the bravery of everybody who's had to leave somebody they love behind. So, heart goes out to them. Not sure about the listenership of the Alfie Brown show in Ukraine or indeed Russia, but it is the sort of thing that somebody would do at the end of it. I just want to really send my love to them. Well, they don't listen to your podcast, so I'm afraid that love was, that was a waste of love. Swallow that back down and give it to somebody who gives a fuck about you or what you're doing in your little bedroom podcast studio, you little loser. Anyway, this has been the Alfie Brown Show for the 2nd of March, 2022. Keep safe, keep cool. Let's have fun. Let's enjoy each other. Let's have a great week. Let's have a great month, year. Not sure how often you listen to this, but it's the Alfie Brown Show. Keep going. All lots of love.